Okay, so great job so far. We're steaming right along. Next, we're going to go over the idea of bounds. Okay, so what have we covered so far? We've covered loading in a base map, loading in shapes of different kinds, loading in pop-ups of different kinds into map technologies. That's quite a lot already. You can do a lot with that. That gives you a lot of tools. So one thing I wanted to just touch on, because I think it's important, even though it's a bit more advanced, and it's where we're going to go in the next couple sections, is making sure your map works in mobile. I know I've mentioned it before, but we're going to go over one little thing that kind of eases us into more advanced topics that has to do with making things work in mobile. And that's the idea of bounds, okay? So the idea here is that no matter what size screen your map loads into, it should show what you want it to show. So for instance, when I came here and we tested this, when I opened it, it just had one single point on the map, but I had to zoom out to see this second point. I had to zoom way out. Okay, so imagine that your map looks like this on your main computer and you load it and it looks nice. But now someone loads up your map and they're on a little mobile device, which has a totally different screen size. So when it loads up, this looks totally different. And let's say yours looks nice like this, but their screen size is all squished, so they just see it like that. And they don't see that you have another point, which is currently outside the map right now. Well, that's what bounds are. Bounds are what we refer to when we talk about the kind of space that's made up by the four corners of your map. And what we want to do when we open up a map is we want to set the bounds so that no matter what screen size, no matter what size the map is, if it's stretched in some funny way because of the size of the person's screen, that it's going to show everything you want it to show. So in order to do this, we have to actually do some geospatial analysis, because bounds aren't just like this super simple thing that you just like give it 2 points and it'll just fix it for you. You do have to like calculate the bounds. Luckily, we have tools. I've mentioned turf before. So we have tools like turf, which have some like shorthand methods that we can do to just kind of make this work a lot easier. So when we come to turf, we're going to go to the getting started, and down here is a CDN tag. So this is that thing, we can just put that right in our code. So here I have a MapLibra example, and I have up here, I've just added the turf script, and that gives me access to all the turf methods. And then we're going to go to the turf thing called bbox. This is not beatboxing. This is a bounding box. That's another word for bounds. It's a box that contains the bounds of the whatever thing you're trying to show. So the idea here is that you give it a GeoJSON, okay? And it will figure out what's the bounds. And the bounds here is basically defined as the smallest rectangle, like geographically, that could fit all your points on it. So here, it would be something like this. You know, like this has to have all this extra space on the side just so I can fit these 2 points. I can't really make it smaller. If I make it bigger, that's too big. So it figures out kind of the minimal square or minimal rectangle, and it basically gives a couple of points to represent that. It gives like a northeast point and a southwest point, and that defines bounds. Okay, so we don't really need to know all that. We just need to know that turf does it for us. So down here in my MapLibra example, all I do is right at the bottom here, I say turf.bbox, and I pass it this polygon GeoJSON that I was using for the source, right? Like I just had that GeoJSON, I just pass it to it. It gives me back some bounds, and I do this method that MapLibra has called fit bounds. It's built into every mapping library you're going to run into out there, because this is a really common thing. So you do fit bounds, and then the map will just fit, right? So again, before, when I didn't, you just got a preview of it. So before, when I didn't do this, I loaded it in, and you can see both because I set the center and the zoom far enough. But if someone's screen was all wacky, maybe they wouldn't see this the way I'm expecting. So what I can do is set the bounds, and then when I load it, the map will zoom in like that nicely to show both the features as close as it possibly can. And you can see here, it's like a rectangle that's minimum to fit that, right? So that's how we do it in MapLibra. It's very straightforward. We don't ever need to look at the turf bounds because it's just like it just does it for us. Strangely enough, in Leaflet, it's actually way more complicated because they have a different format for the bounds than the one that Turf gives us. It's like in a different order and sort of set differently. Now I've put the example here so you can just copy it, because trying to explain how it works is going to be way too confusing. So all I did is I got the Turf B box, same thing. I just passed in the GeoJSON that we had made in our example where we were creating the markers using a GeoJSON, and all I did was pass in that GeoJSON, and then I'll console log the bounds just so we look at them briefly. And then you can see I've kind of like rearranged, because it comes back as an array, and I've kind of rearranged it. So I said here, it's kind of awkward, but basically here's the format from Turf and here's the format from Leaflet. So I had to kind of readjust it. So I'd say just use this if you're going to use it. So here, instead of loading in at that one marker, now when we load, it loads in both. Great, so it fits the map. And just to take a quick look at the bounds here, we can see that what Turf gives us is this thing. It just 0, 1, 51. So it's giving us basically like a longitude, latitude, longitude, latitude. That's what it's giving us, right? So it's giving just 4 points, 4 like pieces of points, basically 2 points in a certain order. And that's how we can use it to give it to the map so that it will set this bounds appropriately. So that's just something I really wanted to go over because I think it's really valuable to know right from the very start. It's something that can be a big point that really makes your maps a bit more professional, and making it work across those different devices is something I really want to emphasize by teaching this. Make sure you check things in your actual mobile device, not just in that little Chrome, that little preview thing. Check it in your real mobile device before you start shunting it around to people, and make sure your bounds are working. All right, in the next section, we're actually going to have a little sample project. So that's going to be fun. We're going to go over finding the McDonald's in the US per state and then mapping them in some way. And it's going to make use of all the different stuff that we've already done. So we'll see you in the next one. Great job so far.